We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Panchadasi, chapter 4, titled Advaita Vedanta Prakaranam. We have finished 62 verses out of 69. We'll try to see if we can complete this text today. Advaita Viveka means what is the status of subject and object in creation. I am the subject. The world of objects is in front of me. I, the subject, today feel I am the body and the mind. What Vidyaranya tries to reveal in this chapter is the Advaitic truth, which says Chaitanyam is Satya. Chaitanyam's other name is Brahman. Consciousness is real truth. What about the body, mind, and the world? The body, mind, and the world are relatively true. But the truth, real truth, is consciousness. How to separate that consciousness from the body and mind is a very big topic. For all spiritual seekers, this is a challenge, because our identification with the body is extremely strong. Deha Abhimana. There are several exercises which are prescribed in the Shastra to bring this Deha Abhimana down. That means mentally I have to disidentify with the body and mind and identify with the consciousness, which is the substratum of this body and mind. The moment you reach there, it is called a sakshi. That sakshi, which is separated from the body and mind, then has to join Brahman. What is Brahman? Brahman is the substratum of the entire universe. The joining or the equation between the sakshi and this Brahman is the Mahavakyam. Aham Brahma Asmi. Tat Tvam Asi. Prajnanam Brahma. All these are equating the jiva-srishti with Brahman, the sakshi or the adhishtanam of the entire universe. In every chapter, Swami Vidyaranya tries to help us to reach this ultimate goal. So never forget what we are trying to achieve. This equation, I am Satyam. This I means consciousness. Satyam means it is eternally existing. In the following mantras from 63 onwards, which we will see, this is what is being revealed. So what is being revealed? that the jiva is nothing but that pure consciousness. Let's go to verse number 63. And then we'll see how in each of these verses, Vidyaranya tries to bring out this point. In this verse, let me try and play this for you first.
Jite tasmin vritti shunyam. Jite tasmin vritti shunyam. Manastishtati mukavat. Manastishtati mukavat. Etat padam visishthena. Etat padam visishthena. Ramaya bahudheritam. Ramaya bahudheritam.
In the next three verses, 63, 64, 65, Swami Vidyaranya takes the help of a text which is called as Yoga Vasistha, which is written by Valmiki. Now, what does that Yoga Vasistha say? We'll go through these three verses, so then you'll have a full idea about the depth of this text. In this verse, he says, then this mental world is conquered. That means I am able to see the mind separate from me. That is the meaning of this. What is the meaning of conquering? Conquering means I am the sakshi, mind is not me. Then what happens? The modifications in the mind, gradually they cease. Why do they cease? Because every time the mind comes up, I am able to identify it as something separate from me. It is a reflection of consciousness. So the mind is always a reflected consciousness. I am the original consciousness. The mind is a reflected consciousness. So when I practice this meditation, I am the sakshi. Whenever you get disturbed by the mind, use this tip which Vidyaranya gives. As you practice this, what happens? What he says, your mind becomes dumb. Dumb means it becomes silent. Like a person who's speaking and a person who can't speak. A person who can hear, a person who can't hear. A deaf person. So what is the difference? A person who is dumb is like a person without thoughts. That is a comparison here in Yoga Vasistha Ramayana. Tasmin jite. When this mind is conquered, manaha vritti shunyam tishtati. The mind becomes free from thoughts. What do you mean by free from thoughts? It is not bubbling. The mind is not coming out with one after the other. Even if you are not able to control your thoughts, at least you can imagine. Suppose, like in the ocean, you see the waves are quietened down, and what will you see then? You'll see the ocean is flat. There is no upward, there is no waves which are bubbling up and down. The ocean is stable. Like a glass, a stable ocean is almost like a glass. Similarly, my mind becomes, when the rajas, when the rajo guna in the mind quietens, what happens? The sattva guna becomes predominant. So this is the way to quieten the mind. Bring down the rajas. There are various techniques of doing this. The most common technique used by all the spiritual students is just chanting Om Namah Shivaya, just chanting any mantra continuously for say 10 minutes. That way you will build up focusing ability and concentration. When you practice this for a long time, the mind becomes sattvic. A sattvic mind is supposed to be better than a tamasic or a rajasic mind. Anytime we are entertaining a thought for pleasure, it is rajasic. Suppose I don't entertain, it is called as sattvic. A thought is a signature of discontent in a person. See how beautiful these verses they explain to us, that our inner nature is pure chitta. A pure mind is consciousness itself. We'll explain that. Vidyaranya will explain all these things very well. So a dumb person who is free from speech is compared to a person who doesn't think. That is the example which is taken in this. When this happens, you taste the inner bliss. Where is this bliss arising from? It is a reflection of that consciousness. Vritti shunyam manaha tishtati mukhavatus sada. Like a dumb person, similarly, the mind, when it quietens, it becomes sattvic, and I am able to enjoy my own swarupa. Now, Valmiki wrote two Ramayanas. One is called as Valmiki Ramacharitra-manas, which is of a different rasa, where he brings so many characters, and where Hanuman, Rama, Sita, all the story aspects are highlighted. There is another book written by Valmiki. It is called as Yoga Vasistha. It consists of, it's a very big text, almost 40,000, 36,000 verses or something like that. So such a big text. There are texts that Yoga Vasistha Ramayana, there are smaller condensed versions of that are available. If you Google it, you can find it. So Yoga Vasistha Ramayana is the text which describes how Vasistha Rishi, a very great teacher, he educated Rama in Advaita Vedanta. So the whole text of Yoga Vasistha is nothing but a teaching of Advaita Vedanta, which is the knowledge of Brahman. And it tells us that even Lord has to have a guru. Lord Rama had a guru. He went to the guru. His guru was Vasistha ji. Vasistha then taught Rama the state of the mind. When it is quietened, it reflects your real nature. And Swami Vidyaranya quotes two verses out of that. We'll see in the following mantras. This section here, 61, is a revision section of what we have already studied, so I won't go into the depth of this. it's just explaining to us what we have discussed. Only one thing here is Pranava Japa means Om meditation. Chanting Om, stopping. Chanting Om, stopping. That is what is called as Pranava Japa. When we do that Pranava Japa, it quietens the mind. Whenever the mind quietens from all kinds of thoughts and disturbances, that mandha or tivra manaha, it becomes quieted. And then it becomes an instrument for realizing the self. This is how almost all the texts in Advaita Vedanta, they have a very clear-cut process of explaining, and they tell you the means of achieving whatever the scriptures are telling us about our nature. Next verse.
दृश्यं नास्तीति बोधेन दृश्यं नास्तीति बोधेन मनसो दृश्यमार्जनं सम्पन्नं चेत्तदुत्पन्ना परा निर्वाण निवृत्तिः
How to get nirvanam? How to experience the bliss of Atma? That is given here, the technique of realizing the bliss of Atma. What is the technique it's telling us? By the direct knowledge. What is that knowledge? This world I'm experiencing does not have an independent existence. This is what is called as jnanam. This is called as wisdom. What will happen then? Unless until I, the consciousness, lend existence to this world, to the body and to the mind, there is no world. If you apply this knowledge, then it is called as mithyatva nishchayam. Mithyatva nishchaya means you are trying to falsify the mind, falsify the body, falsify the world. Not physically, only mentally. When you do that, this verse Vidyaranya says, then what happens to the mind? Nirvana is the experience. That is what is called as moksha ananda. Very important word in Advaita Vedanta. Moksha ananda. What is a normal ananda which we experience? It is Vishaya Ananda. The objects, they give us happiness. That is one type of happiness. We all of us have the Anubhava experience. Only rare people are able to experience Atma Ananda. Why this happens? Because you have to get the knowledge of how to discard the anatma and hold on to Atma. Yoga Vasistha in Vairagya Prakaranam, in chapter 3 of Yoga Vasistha, in the 6th section, he says, Valmiki says, Drishyam nasti iti bodhena manasa drishya marjanam. When the mind is cleansed, the knowledge of the outside world, which is a drishya. Drishya means experienced. When the mind is cleansed, that means if you have a pure mind by doing japa, by doing meditation, you are able to conquer your mind. When that happens, in a pure mind, satyatva of Jagat is taken out. See, in a normal mind, this will not happen. That is why the study of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, Brahma Sutra is important. When you do the study, that Rajoguna, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, all this which is a Shastriya impurities, they all get removed. When they get removed, what happens? That manorajyam, that means that turning of the mind into different objects of the world, that is stopped. See, at least all of us can understand the methodology. You may not be able to experience it immediately, but at least you will agree with the methodology. Because we all experience a mind. You see, our mind runs from one thought to another thought, one topic to another topic. Here, what Swami Vidyaranya is saying is, suppose, imagine, you are able to calm down your mind like calming the whole ocean without waves. Then what will happen? All the Vishayas of the world will be quietened. They will become unmanifest for the person only. Then what happens? There is no adhyasa. Adhyasa means I am not superimposing anything in the pure consciousness. When manorajyam, when the wandering nature of the mind is curtailed, my pure consciousness gets reflected in a pure mind. When that happens, drishyam nasti iti bodhena. There is no experience of drishyam. Drishyam means there is no experience of the seen world. See, the sense organs are the organs, they are designed for experiencing Dvaitam. The moment in meditation you shut your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, everything, you're quieting down all your jnana indriyas. Then what happens? Then the mind's wandering is disturbing you. You learn a technique by which you can control the mind's wandering also. Suppose you are able to do both, this statement, drishyam nasti iti bodhena. This is the direct quotation of Valmiki's Yoga Vasistha. This is how he explains it there. Vidyaranya is just trying to bring that concept into this chapter. What does he mean by this? The existence of the objects externally can be negated. How? Because only when the mind is active, the appearances of the objects are there in the mind. That is why I said this kind of cognition is called as mithyatva jnanam. Cognitively, intellectually, I am able to accept the fact that I can negate the world of objects in my mind. When I negate the world of objects in my own mind, I automatically negate the objects outside. In a situation like this, the mind is free from all drishyam. That is what is called as marjanam. Then what happens? Jiva-srishti is gone. See, all of you now know jiva-srishti means all the impurities of the mind and all the wandering nature of the mind. These are the two components of jiva-srishti. Because both of them, they exist because of objects outside. When you're able to say that all objects are mithya, because I can negate them, then the mind is free of all the objects. Like in a dream, suppose you dream that you won a lottery ticket, but when you are in the waker's mind, you say that was a dream. It came and went. It is not true. So similarly, a jnani, when he wakes up to his real nature of Atma, he can negate his mind. It is not easy, but through knowledge, he can negate the independent existence of the objects. This is an extremely important conclusion in Atma Jnanam. Because Vedanta doesn't say that you destroy all the objects of the world. It only says understand the mithyatva nature. Mithyatva nature means it doesn't have independent existence. Like a reflection in the mirror. A reflection cannot be counted as number 2, as existing. Because when the mirror goes, the reflection goes. Similarly, when the mirror of the mind goes in sleep, the whole objective world disappears for the individual. So this is what is being Vidyaranya is trying to convey. See, all these are all very subtle topics. And a student has to pick these subtle topics and apply it in his mind. As long as we hold on that our mind and the perceptions are satyam, we cannot avoid sukham and dukkham, which is called as samsara in this world. What is the pratipaksha bhavana? Pratipaksha bhavana means an entertaining an opposite thought. What is opposite thought? Opposite thought is when I, the consciousness, the substratum, is not available to be reflected in a mind, at that time the world is mithya, can be taken as mithya. That is what Vidyaranya wants us to capture. Mind becomes perfectly silent. How? By the conclusion which the mind makes that when my mind is quiet, I experience nothing except myself, which is like a house when it is cleaned. Everything is removed from the house. What remains? Space alone remains. Earlier, the house had space plus the objects. Now you have removed all the objects. Space alone remains. Inside, what happens? Consciousness plus thoughts are there. Thoughts are like the objects in the house. You have removed all the objects. What remains? Consciousness alone remains. That consciousness, which remains as the ultimate substratum of this entire Jagat, is called as Brahman. Okay? And when this mind is gone, what arises is pure consciousness. And Vidyaranya gives an example of a candle. Mind is like a candle. You blow the candle, what happens? There are no more light inside. There is no wavering of the flame. The flame is gone. But what remains? What remains is the pure consciousness. The space in which the flame was there, that pure space is still there. Earlier you saw the candle, the flame in the space. Similarly, thought plus consciousness was there. Thoughts are gone. What remains is consciousness. So just by doing foo-foo, what remains? You remove the flame. Similarly, when you are able, through a subtle process in your own mind, to remove your thoughts by japa, by some technique, which may be samadhi technique, which may be different dwelling on the scriptural text, then what happens is you are able to appreciate your nature without anything. Next verse. See how deep these verses are. They are extremely deep in meaning.
Vicharita-malam shastram, vicharita-malam shastram, chiramudgrahitam mithah, chiramudgrahitam mithah, samtyakta vasanan maunad, santyaktva vasanan maunat, dhrite nastyuttamam padam, dhrite nastyuttamam padam.
This verse is again a continuation of that Yoga Vasistha text. And here Vidyaranya specify the means of attaining this type of quietude of the mind. And here he says that a study of scriptures and discussion with your fellow students about the nature of the truth under the guidance of a teacher will help a student, a seeker, to have firm conviction that when the desires are gone, when the passions of Rajoguna are gone in the mind, we reach the highest state. This is what is described in Yoga Vasistha, 4th chapter, 57 section, 28th mantra. That exact verse, I have taken it out. I have shown it to you here. This is exactly what Vidyaranya has copied here. The idea which is given in Yoga Vasistha, see how Vidyaranya is so, he's so conversant with so many different texts. He can remember which out of 36,000 verses he pulls out this verse. He has got that flexibility to take out any mantra from any Upanishad to convey whatever he wants to convey through his teaching. So in that particular Yoga Vasistha mantra, this is what is said: by the study of the scriptures, you can attain perfection of the mind. Yoga Vasistha it's one of the most beautiful texts to understand your mind. But the only problem is the size of that text. It's so huge, so big. There are people who have studied and have written small commentaries on that also. So the gist of that is, there is no other higher state. Yoga Vasistha is very famous for this particular aspect. That's why Vidyaranya is trying to bring that aspect of the essence of Yoga Vasistha in this chapter 4. Because he's trying to bring that essential concept of absorption of the mind into the pure consciousness. What he says is that the mind itself becomes pure consciousness. You see, that is the beauty. When your mind is removed, has removed all the objects, that mind is chittam. For a long time, I have absorbed this teaching. That's what a Shishya will say. But sometimes he will say, I still got some doubts. What does this mean? I have reflected upon the teaching for a long time. But when I am able to remove the doubts and find a solution to my doubts, then my mind is quiet. It doesn't speak. See, we all hear the inner voice. That inner voice, if it is not there, it becomes dumb. Can you imagine when that becomes dumb, how blissful a person will become? And that becomes your swabhava. Your vasanas come under your own control. You don't allow your vasanas to erupt inside. But for a normal person, it is not possible. Only by Vedantic knowledge and wisdom, you can put an end to this manorajyam, that wandering nature, which is the vasana in the mind. When you are able to do that, you can say, Aham Satyam, vrittis and the world of objects are superimposition on this Satya Atma. This is only methodology available to quieten the mind and to drop the ashastriya jiva-srishti, which is of two types, manda and tivra. We have seen all that. This is, we are trying to end. Here, Vidyaranya trying to end and say, the only way we can control the ashastriya, that means the wandering nature of the mind and the impurities of it, is by the knowledge of Atma, knowledge of Shastra. When the highest state is exposed to the human mind, then it understands the nature of the world. Immediately the jiva-srishti is dropped. It happens to all of us when our mind is ready. When that happens, it is called as Jivan Mukti. The Ishwara-srishti, jiva-srishti, all that is beautifully explained in this. And when it is dropped, what happens finally to our own mind? It becomes the pure consciousness. And one can be absorbed in that. When thoughts are not sprouting inside, what Vidyaranya says is, you can remain in that silence. That is what we are trying to do every time when we are in meditation. Try to reach that pure state of the mind when the thought bubbles are not erupting and you realize you are there. Because you are not gone anywhere. You are already there. It is that which aspect, which is without a form, without any gunas, that is what is called as Atma. Till one is merged in that, the effect of prarabdha karma will keep on disturbing all of us. See, we have developed papam and punyam in all previous janmas. That can be eradicated, eliminated, extinguished only by these type of processes which are described in the Vedic texts. There is no other means. Next verse.
Vikshipyate kadachiddhi विक्षिप्यते कदाचिद्धीः कर्मणा भोगदायिना कर्मणा भोगदायिना पुनः समाहिता सा स्यात् पुनः समाहिता सा स्यात् तद्दैवाभ्यासपाटवात् तद्दैवाभ्यासपाटवात्.
See, Vidyaranya now is telling us the obstacles which come when we are trying to do this type of meditations and how one should be steadfast in our spiritual goal. And he gives the reasons for that. Why does the mind bring so many thoughts in my mind when I'm trying to sit down quietly and I want to be quiet? I want to realize my pure nature of consciousness. He says in this very beautifully, in the 68th verse, due to actions performed in the previous births, not this birth. Prarabdha karma is some actions which is trying to be fulfilled, some thoughts which will get exhausted in this birth. But there are so much of desires in the mind. It is the desire which brings these thoughts up. So the obstacle is what? The desire. What is the expression of the desire? Thoughts. What happens when the thoughts come? The peaceful state of my nature is disturbed. But by abhyasa, that is what he says in the end. By constant practice of spiritual meditations, like how we are doing every time on a Wednesday after the sessions, by constantly doing it, it is not one time, two time. We have to do it repeatedly. Then you can glide into the higher reality. See, each of these verses, see how much knowledge, spiritual, see, Vidyaranya, he tells us the process, the goal to be achieved, and also tells us the process. He also tells us why things are happening in our mind, how I can control those actions. See how deep is this text. When you're sitting in meditation, suddenly a distraction comes from inside. And that is what is called as a sprout of vasana. Like you have bubbles coming in a pond. Suppose the bubbles are not there, I can see the pond directly. I can see the clear water. I can see the depth of the pond. So a chitta, which is quietened, the consciousness, chitta means inside that reflected consciousness. When it is quietened by different processes, that desires will get eliminated. It is a desire. The desire is nothing but it is a vikshepa, a projection of the inner instrument. Our own buddhi, our own intellect gets disturbed. And he gives an example of how Lord Shiva is meditating, and he uses, Lord Shiva is, this is from the Puranas. He puts an arrow and then he strikes all his enemies. Enemies here means his thoughts. The arrow is an expression, is a symbol of the thoughts rising in the mind of a person. With one blow, and what is that blow? It is the Atma blow. I am the Satchidananda Atma. The moment you say that, automatically inside you will find that your thought which was disturbing you has been burned to ashes. It is like Bhagavan Buddha meditating. Jesus doing tapas. Saturn comes. Different theories are, it's the same subject matter. What happens in the highest state in all different religions, in all different philosophies, they explain the same thing. Quietened mind is the ultimate friend of a jiva. A turbulent mind is the enemy of a jiva. Bhagavad Gita says this. Upanishads say this. Abhyasa. Abhyasa means practice. There are two types of samadhi, which is discussed in Rigdrishe Viveka. Savikalpa samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi. What is savikalpa samadhi? I take a form of Lord Rama and I keep on remembering the form of Lord Rama in my mind. That is called as savikalpa. Savikalpa means the mind is involved. It is not, it is entertaining a thought. Savikalpa with thought modifications. What is the other method of samadhi? The other method is nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpa means what? Thinking that I am the Atma, ever free from thoughts. For many of us, savikalpa may be very easy to do, but nirvikalpa is only possible with the knowledge of Upanishads. The more you study Upanishads, you will find it is very easy to do the nirvikalpa. For those who have studied Upanishads, they find that it's far more easier to do nirvikalpa dhyanam compared to savikalpa. Because the mind gets settled. You see, when the mind gets settled in aham brahmasmi, then all the vikalpas, they die down. That is what here it says. You again and again entertain brahmakara vritti. What is brahmakara vritti? Brahmakara vritti means I am the pure consciousness. Everything else is anatma. Shivoham Satchidananda Swarupoham Soham Hamsaha. I am Atma Brahman. These are all the words which you can use in meditation. And it works wonders. You see, when you use these methodologies, and for those people who are attending my meditation sessions on Wednesdays, it is extremely easy for them to control their mind and reach the ultimate. You see, those who are attending these talks, you listen to these talks, you know what is the process. Once you know the process, your mind itself will take you there. The vikshepa will come to an end, and then what happens? You yourself can declare Aham Brahma Asmi. The next verse.
Vikshepo yasya nastyasya Vikshepo yasya nastyasya Brahma vitvam na manyate Brahma vitvam na manyate Brahmo vayamiti prahuhu Brahmo vayamiti prahuhu Munayah paradarshinah Munayah paradarshinah.
See how Vidyaranya brings out so many verses on this topic of the quietening of the mind. So many verses. You see, we use 63 onwards to 69, 10 verses, 7, 8 verses. So these verses are all talking about how vikshepa, it is a Shakti in the mind, which is called as Maya Shakti. Our mind is nothing but it is Maya Shakti. So when this Maya Shakti is under the control of consciousness, the consciousness can control my own mind, then the chitta does not create new vrittis because it has learned. See, it is a question of only abhyasa, practice. So in this verse, what he says again and again, he says that when the mind is not having projections, that mind is not a knower of Brahman. It is not seeing Brahman as an object. This is a very beautiful, subtle point he is bringing in this topic. He says that mind itself is called as Brahman. And he doesn't say, I am saying it. He says the sages who are very, very well versed in the scriptures, they say that the mind itself is called as Brahman. So don't try to keep identifying, objectifying Brahman, but ultimately claim that I am that Brahman. This is the final step in the spiritual science. We are going to expand on this particular topic next chapter. After 2 weeks when we meet, we will be talking about this aspect of how to reach this final stage. Here he says he is not a knower of Brahman, but he has reached Brahman. Brahma eva mayam. I am that Brahman. It is no longer paroksha jnanam. It is not a distant Lord sitting somewhere in Vaikuntha or something. No, it is inside his mind. The mind itself has transformed itself into this pure consciousness, and that is called as aparoksha jnanam. Aparoksha jnanam means without any medium of the sense organs or the mind, you realize I am that consciousness. And that is what Upanishads say, claim that as your real nature. Aham Brahmasmi, Prajnanam Brahma. That Atma, that Sakshi of the mind is Brahman. Normally, the I thought is ahamkara. But now, that ahamkara is eliminated by the constant practice of aham brahma asmi. When you do that, ahamkara goes away. When ahamkara goes away, jiva bhava ends. When jiva bhava ends, brahma bhava automatically comes. So ahamkara is bhadita. Bhadita means what? Falsified. See, in many of the Upanishads, they say that you are, I have also expressed this many times when I'm talking. In your sleep state, you are in your pure consciousness. Upanishads declare this, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad. They say clearly, you in your sleep state are Brahman. Because that ahamkara is falsified, it is negated in the sleep state. This is a very, very important discovery in the spiritual journey. But in the sleep state, the consciousness is still there. But in the sleep state, you cannot say Aham Brahmasmi, because it is a tamasic state. You cannot get up and say I am Brahman in that sleep state. But in the waking state, you can say ahamkara, which the mind is throwing up all the time in the waking state. Aham, 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 plus the objects of the world, drop the objects of the world, what remains is the pure aham remains. Therefore, ahamkara can be negated by knowledge. A person who has got knowledge, he knows how this ahamkara is falsified. When the ahamkara is falsified or badita, he becomes a Brahman Jnani. Because only consciousness is there. There is no more ahamkara to disturb the mind. In this way, a manana shilavan munihi, a reflective saint, a reflective person, because of his Vedantic knowledge, realizes the truth of Veda. He is not a knower of Brahman. He is not a Brahma Vidu, but he is Brahman himself. Manisha Panchakam very beautifully summarizes this. A lot of you have read this in the 5th verse of Manisha Panchakam. This is what is conveyed. Once you are able to have a tiny droplet, have a peep into this Atma, what happens to that person? He becomes Brahman himself. That is what is said in Manisha Panchakam. Same idea, Vidyaranya is saying this here. Even in Muktiko Upanishad, where Lord Hanuman gets liberated, the same idea is conveyed. We'll see that verse, 68th verse, and then we'll conclude in the 69th verse. These are revision pages which you can read. The 68th verse.
दर्शनात् दर्शने हित्वा दर्शनात् दर्शने हित्वा स्वयं केवलरूपतः यस्तिष्ठति सतुः ब्रह्मन् यस्तिष्ठति सतुः ब्रह्मन् ब्रह्मणा ब्रह्मविस्वयम् ब्रह्मणा ब्रह्मविस्वयम्.
So in the final stages of a seeker, Vidyaranya brings out a confusion which may arise. As a jnani, as a seeker, you want to know whether you know Brahman or not. So what happens? You try to identify Brahman, objectify Brahman. So here he warns us, don't dwell on the doubt whether you know Brahman or not. Drop that doubt, drop that questioning. Have I realized or not? Drop that. Then what happens? You are with the pure consciousness. And when you are with that pure consciousness, you are not a knower of Brahman, but you are Brahman yourself. See how again and again he repeats it. He brings another Muktika Upanishad Vakya. Please go through this yourself. If you read it, you will be able to understand how Hanumanji gets liberated through Brahma Jnana. And here he brings out a very beautiful topic, and he says, vasanas are of two kinds, pure vasana and impure vasana. Impure vasana is the cause of rebirth. Pure vasana of the pure consciousness is the destroyer of that rebirth. This is the essence of this Muktika Upanishad, very beautiful Upanishad. Lord Hanuman gets liberated. Lord Rama teaches Lord Hanuman. Again, this is explained in Yoga Vasistha. This is one of the mantras used of the Muktika Upanishad by Yoga Vasistha. Idea is the same. Person who is free from thoughts and who abides in Atma is the Jnani. He gets direct knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi. Not Brahman is there, somewhere he is there, not remotely known. He is established in thoughtlessness. It's not I know Brahman, but it is Aham Brahmasmi. So the seeker starts, I don't know Brahman. Then he says, yes, there is some Brahman, because I have learned I have read in the Upanishads. And the third stage is what? I am Brahman. I am that pure consciousness. See, many people don't know what is this Brahman and all that. But when you do such a beautiful text of Panchadasi of chapter 4, all your doubts get clarified. And you get the darshana of your own nature. Darshana means what? Vision of your own self. And that is what is called as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It is not a very exotic state and things like that. It can be achieved by you and me. Everybody can do it. Where it is Kevala Jnana, Kevala Bhavana, single nature, no differences, no bheda. When you reach that level, you yourself will understand that consciousness. The textbooks will only give us the book knowledge. But when you apply it to yourself, that becomes your own personal nature. When that becomes your nature, then you will never, then what happens is this Aham Brahmasmi goes deep into your subconscious mind. And it never goes away, because once a person gets the knowledge, he becomes that Brahman himself. The last verse of this text, chapter 4.
Jivan muktehi parakashtha. Jivan muktehi parakashtha. Jivadvaita vivarjanat. Jivadvaita vivarjanat. Labhyate savatotredam. Labhyate savatotretam. Ishadvaitadvivechitam. Ishadvaitadvivechitam.
The brilliant teacher Swami Vidyaranya concludes this beautiful chapter number 4. From where he started, he's just concluding the chapter by telling us what he has achieved in this chapter. The last verse of this chapter number 4, Swami Vidyaranya says that the final step in the spiritual journey is the removal of the mental creations called as jiva-bhava. And this chapter has described how this jiva-bhava, the duality, in the person's mind is different than the Ishwara-srishti, the creation, and how by dropping this jiva bhava, one can remain as a jivan mukta. That is the ultimate. See how beautiful is this text. He says see, liberation of the mind is the liberation of the jiva. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha anandam hi brahmano vidwan. So see, this is how the people who have realized the truth, they say that when the speech has stopped, when the mind has stopped thinking of it, that state is the eternal blissful state of Brahman. Words recede. There is no more. Words cannot reach there. Mind cannot reach there because it's not an object of the world. It is a subject. When the Advaitam goes away, what remains is Advaitam alone. What is the meaning of Advaitam? Advaita means there is no second thing, non-dual. That is the meaning of Advaita. Normally we say, I am the subject, I know the object. That is what is called as jiva-srishti. But now the object is not there. What remains is the subject alone is there. How is this reached? By dropping the ashastriya dvaitam and by dropping this shastriya. Ashastriya dvaitam consists of kama, krodha, lobha and manorajya. How to drop the shastriya srishti? First, you do Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. By doing this Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, you reach the knowledge that Brahman alone is. That knowledge by which you drop everything in the world is Brahma Jnanam. By doing this, I can drop the jiva-srishti. Ishwara-srishti does not create any bondage. But it is the jiva-srishti which is taken up in this 4th chapter by Swami Vidyaranya. And he says, get rid of the jiva-srishti and remain blissful in the Ishwara-srishti. The world is a beautiful place if you know how to control your mind. That is the ultimate takeaway from this chapter. Normally, the first chapter of Panchadasi is a very difficult chapter. It's got a lot of technical terms. So people, acharyas generally say you take the 4th chapter, do the 3rd chapter, becomes easier. Because jiva-srishti is a very important topic. We have done the 3rd chapter, 4th chapter. After this, now, the reason I'm not taking the 1st and 2nd chapter because they're too long and it's very, very abstract in nature. I'm going to do the 5th chapter. And that's what I'm going to start on the 15th of February. Normally, when we finish a chapter, they usually say you chant the first verse of the chapter again so that you can repeat it again and again. So I've added the first verse here. We have differentiated Ishwara-srishti and jiva-srishti. You can see how in the first verse itself, Swami Vidyaranya says, I will teach you what is the duality of Ishwara-srishti and jiva-srishti. In the 69th verse, he says, I have taught you, now you remain free. The bondage is put to an end. Jiva-srishti is very clear. I am free. That is the final conclusion of Swami Vidyaranya in the 4th chapter. With this, we conclude the 4th chapter. I have, in the notes, I have got a summary of all the verses. You can see the summary. You can read the summary. When you read the summary, you will find it very useful to revise all what we have learned. Verse by verse, what is the simple meaning I have put in the end? All the verses up to verse number 69 is here. It is there in the notes, in your notes. You can refer to them. And with that, I will close today's session. Next week is the 1st of February. After that is the 8th of February. These 2 sessions, I am not in Singapore, so I will be missing these 2 sessions. We will again be back on the 15th of February. So for those people who want to revise this, it's a good time. You can go through these verses with the help of notes, make your own notes, make your own conclusions, make your own judgments about the chapter. You have 2 full weeks to go through till we meet on the 15th. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudacchade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. There are no questions on the chat box. In case any of you have any questions, you can ask them by unmuting yourself.
Sekhaji.
Bolo bhai. Yes, tell me.
Pehla I had thoughts and desires of our past life. They are coming on and on until our rebirths are over?
Yes, correct. See, whenever it's a very good question you're asking. It's a very deep question. See, rebirth is nothing but the mind taking another body. Mind takes one more new physical body. The mind continues birth after birth, birth after birth, birth after birth. Continuously it is taking. So there is no death for the mind.
So that means the thoughts and desires are never ending.
It is never ending. Absolutely correct. The only way you can end your thoughts is by the knowledge of Atma. That is why the study becomes very important. See, in the study, what we do? In the study, we discover something new, which I have never known. The mind by itself can never think about Atma. The sense organs are not fit to know Atma, because the sense organs will only reveal Dvaita. It will only reveal the duality which is outside. It will. My eyes will see my body. My eyes will see the world. My ears will listen to different sounds. My nose will smell different things. My skin will touch many things, and it will always be in Dvaitam. my tongue will be tasting so many different things. So the knowledge which I get is always from the sense organs, or it is from the mind's own thought eruptions. Whenever I am not engaged with the world, I close my eyes. When I close my eyes, 10 minutes, I sit in meditation. What do I experience? I don't experience the world outside. I don't experience the prana also. I've dropped it. But what is this mind? It is bubbling, 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 bubbling. Inside, it is a non-stop activity. That is what is called as Maya. Nobody can get rid of this mind without knowing what is the controller of Maya. And that is what is called as Atma, Sakshi.
So it means that even if we are in the highest stage of in life, does the thoughts and desires still create problems for you?
No. When you are in a higher state, what happens is described in chapter 4 of the Panchadasi. What it says that jiva-srishti, that means the bubbling nature of the mind, can be controlled by the jiva. You try to consciously bring down your thoughts. When you bring down your thoughts, you are bringing down basically the desires in your mind. It is the desires in your mind which is pushing and coming and bubbling. And what do you do every day in your day? You know, either you're eating, you're seeing some things. So you become a bhokta. See, the sense organs, they are all, when they are active, at that time you are a bhokta. Bhokta means what? Experiencer of the world. Different sounds, different tastes, different forms, colors, so many things you experience. That is why you're a bhokta. So, but suppose you're not an enjoyer of the world, you're not the experience of the world, then what do you become? You become the karta. Karta means what? Doing actions again and again. So your whole life is nothing but the life of the mind in two pendulums, karta, bhokta, experiencer or enjoyer or the doer. Either you're doing something or you're enjoying something.
So is it the only way to get rid of this is through meditation?
It is through the meditation on the subject, on the sakshi. Who is the seer of the mind? That entity which is seeing the mind is Chaitanya, is pure consciousness. Remind, and that who is teaching me this? It is the Veda. I have full trust in the Veda as a pramanam. Pramana means it is a source of knowledge, means of knowledge. And it is given out by Bhagavan. It is not the creator of this whole universe, of these sense organs, of this beautiful world which I see outside. The creator is given this knowledge. It cannot come from any other source. It is not a human source. It is some power which is beyond the human intellect. And that is what is the Veda. The Veda is a song of the creator. And it is telling me, I am there in you. Because Bhagavad Gita says, Lord Krishna says, I am in every jiva. Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Second verse of the 13th chapter. I am there. I am there in all the jivas. Means what? I am there in the mind. as the sakshi, as the witness of all your thoughts. See, you have thoughts, I have thoughts. But the witness of the thought is only one, and that is consciousness. So when you realize that I am the witness, there is some entity that I don't know what to call it. When you just realize there is something in me which is watching the thoughts, all jivas can experience this, and that is why they keep on telling that when you close your eyes, realize your consciousness. When you open your eyes, realize that you are the existence principle. Either you are Sat or you are Chit. And it is this Sat and Chit alone is Ananda. See, our texts are very deep, but you see, I'm very glad you are asking these questions and you're gone so deep. And the repeated listening you have done is now, you see, these thoughts will continue in your next birth because you will not stop. Because this mind has already got training now. It knows that there is something which it is missing. And in meditation, what happens? You are giving a glimpse of Atma to that mind. Every time you close your eyes, again the mind goes quiet. Again it sees something inside. Again and again you see that glimpse of Atma, the self, the pure Atma, inner nature. It is there in all of us. And this will push you. And one day you will say, I know what the Veda is teaching. Then your mind will completely become quiet. Completely. You will have zero doubt. There will be no vikshepa. No vikshepa means no more projection. There will be no doubt. Because this light of consciousness will swallow the entire mind completely. Completely it will swallow. Completely. And that state is what is called as samadhi state.
So we have to clear these doubts and desires that
yes,
of the past or present or
whatever it is, you tell yourself, you just keep telling yourself, all this is just a very temporary thing. It is not you see, your doubts, your questions, all are there. Temporarily it comes, it goes away. Temporarily something else comes. Your whole mind's waking state is just a small infinitesimal in part of that timelessness. Atma is timeless. In that 100 years, 50 years is nothing. Good, very good question, Bhai. Very good. Anybody else has a question?
Secondly, last one. There was a statement saying at the final state, you will be disturbed. What do you mean by that?
In the final stage,
you will be disturbed.
Correct. You see, you will be disturbed.
Is it during the death?
Yeah, you see, no. In the state of meditation, not in death. See, in the sometimes what happens is a seeker, he has heard so much about Brahman, and saying Aham Brahmasmi. Then a seeker might get a doubt, have I realized this Brahman or not?
There's a problem.
So Vidyaranya says, drop that thought also. Don't ask a question, have I realized or have I not realized? Am I still a seeker? Drop that question which comes to you. To some seekers it will come. Because they have this questioning mind, and they have the doubting mind. So Vidyaranya says, drop this thought also. Don't even ask this question, have I realized, not realized? Many people go to a guru to ask, Guru, tell me now how I will know whether I am realized or not.
Yeah.
So this is what Vidyaranya says, stop it. Don't even ask this question, because the moment it happens, you will know it. Okay?
Secondly, this earlier you stated a snake and ladder.
Ah,
It's a kind of three gunas going up and down.
yes, snake and ladder means you're always between sattva guna, raja guna, tamo guna. The raja guna will take you up to the top, but then it will bring you down again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, that is what happens with your mind. Suddenly it will throw up a thought, hey, I have to go and do this, I have to do this, I have to achieve this. And then suddenly you'll find, oh, when I go there, I suddenly discover, no, that is not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And why it happened? Because my mind pushed me there. And it is a snake and ladder. The whole life is nothing but a snake and ladder of the mind going up and down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else has a question?
Shekharji, Venkatesh here, yeah. Very nice session. So very beautiful chapter, fourth this thing. And what a really mind-blowing clarity is, Vidyaranya Swami had just made it clear that Ishwara-srishti has got nothing to do, actually. Whatever the disturbances are happening, that is because of your own jiva-srishti. And so that is one very big clarity. I mean, without knowing the scriptures, most of the time, every individual gets disturbed by the sectional objects only.
Yes.
Like, so he just made things very clear that the vikshepa has nothing to do. Nothing can be done. That's one very big way of clarification given to like a seeker. I realize that's one. The whole bhokta effect he has just removed. The whole existence, world of objects, the whole thing. I mean, if the demarcation line is drawn, how to distinguish yourself, how to discriminate yourself, your intellect, he just made it very clear. This is the world of object, the vikshepa, the bhokta, all this indriyas, all that. He simply made it very beautiful. I mean, it's very difficult. How he has put it and all, I suddenly realized, I was just thinking, what is the essence of this whole chapter? So that one bigger part of the discrimination he has just removed from the doubt, from the mind.
Yeah, I'm very happy because this 63rd verse to 69th verse is brilliant. The Vidyaranya is extraordinary.
The 5-6 verses I really realized very beautifully has created, and finally he's saying that whatever is happening, it is your own dwelling in the mind actually. So Dvaita with the external world and the Dvaita within yourself, he distinguished very beautifully.
Yes, that's very beautiful. I'm very happy you picked up the juice of this chapter. Even though you didn't attend other sessions, but you got the juice. And
I was just going through all the lectures sometime or other. Actually, I was just trying to understand like this fourth chapter. What is the real essence of it and all? I was just trying to get the picture. But this last 6 verses, he made it very, very effective. All that Yoga Vasistha and that Yoga Vasistha, because we have earlier gone through part of the Yoga Vasistha, is a very complex, very difficult to understand, not an easy chapter. But the way he picked up some of those verses are extraordinary. I mean, I feel something like in a 100-path circle, if somebody says, go in this particular path, this is your destination. It is something like that. Otherwise, to find out that particular path is so difficult actually. It's not an easy task.
Yes.
So
Vidyaranya is a great teacher. Very, very, very great teacher of Advaita Vedanta.
Really, I mean, one is enlightened master putting, the words coming from such a person and the way he has put it, unbelievable actually. Yeah. It's a very beautiful.
The next chapter is going to blow up your mind. Only 8 verses, but it is going to blow up because that is the ultimate of all spiritual journey.
Yeah.
I don't know how much each one of us will understand, but I will try my best to bring out the essence of the Mahavakyas. It is a Mahavakya chapter. all the 4 Mahavakyas. Vidyaranya is going to analyze it. He has got a style of putting them. There are beautiful notes for these 8 verses. And it is the ultimate in the spiritual study.
Yeah. Look,
Whether you do Upanishads, whether you do Bhagavad Gita, you are ultimately, what is it which the Upanishad is conveying through the Mahavakya. And why is this Mahavakya is so important?
Yes.
Because it takes me out of this world. See, Mahavakya is meant to take you out of the time-space world. Beyond this world, there is something which is there. That is what is Brahman. That
Ultimate
is
cause.
it. Yes, the ultimate
Cause of cause.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see when it comes, but it's an extremely subtle topic, which only sharp intellects can pick up the nuances of this Mahavakya. We'll make an attempt. As you study this Mahavakya again and again, you will find that it is helping you to go deeper into your own mind. See, yes. That is what will happen. And it's a very joyous feeling when you study Mahavakya. So we'll start on the 15th, chapter 5 of Panchadasi. We have covered now 3 chapters. Chapter 10 we finished. Chapter 3 we have finished. Chapter 4 we have finished. We are going to do the 4th chapter, that is the 5th chapter. And what I have left out is 1 and 2, because they are very abstract by nature. After the 5th chapter, we will see what we should do. Let's complete it, then we'll see.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hari Om, sir.
Yeah, Ajita, tell me.
Today, very fruitful class.
I'm very happy that these things makes impact on your mind.
Yes, of course. But I have one feeling that this Vikshepa is there.
Yes.
But in the same way, Avarna is also there from nature.
Correct.
Both are the power of nature.
That's right. Both are the powers of nature. The moment you understand that Avarna Shakti, which we have in the sleep state, and the Vikshepa Shakti, which is there in the waking state, both are nothing but Maya.
Yes. At the same time, the Trigunatmika, that is also nature.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sattva, Rajas and Tamas is the cause of this Vikshepa and Avarna.
Avarna. Three are available in different proportions, in different time, different people. Yeah, it is very, sometimes we have going beyond this, we can see this actual truth is beyond all these parameters.
Correct. You're right.
Yeah.
And the more you understand this, the more you will be closer to your inner nature.
Yeah.
The more you understand the impact of this Maya, how it deludes me every day,
Yeah.
The more you come and realize this nature of Maya, you realize your own nature, which is beyond Maya.
Beyond Maya.
Which is what Lord Krishna says, Mama Maya Duratyaya. Crossing this Maya only, you'll realize me. Because I am in the seat of your mind.
Yes.
I am in the heart of everybody, Lord Krishna says. When Lord Krishna says means what? He is the consciousness principle talking to seekers like me.
Yeah.
That Chaitanya principle, which is a substratum, is in the form of Lord Krishna talking to all of us and telling us, look inside you, experience me in your nature, and then you'll be free from rebirth. You'll be free not only in this birth, but in all your future births. You're out of the cycle of samsara.
Yeah.
You will not take another body. This is what is the promise of the Veda.
Yes.
What a great yeah, you're talking about rebirth, forget about anything in this world. So this is the promise of the Veda, and this is why people come into the Veda to discover this truth.
Yes.
It's so majestic in its nature. It's so grand,
It is how it is making our mind stable, and how it is controlling our thoughts, how it is.
That's correct. You see, you can feel it. There is some presence in this body-mind complex. It is there. And the moment I quieten my mind, Veda says, you will realize it.
Yes.
And there is no words to describe it, but you will know. That's all.
Yeah. And sometimes we never agitating for some things. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those things, yes, I can feel that difference. If we watch, we will feel that, yes, we have a smile like Krishna.
Yes, you see, yes, because you remember your nature, you see?
Yeah.
That is what is called as the transformation which happens to a jiva.
Yes.
I'm very happy. You're truly bubbling with joy. Okay, good. Anybody else has a question?
Secretary, आप मुल्क जा रहे हैं?
I will be outside Singapore. Yeah, I'll be in India for 11 days. I've got some work there. And then I'll be back. I'm back in Singapore on the 11th. Saturday, the 11th, I'm back in Singapore. But then we'll be having the class on on Saturday evening, the Upanishad class will be there. On the 11th evening, we'll have the Upanishad class.
So from 1st to the 11th, you will be in India?
Yeah, 1st to 11th, I'm there in India. I'm outside. So that's the reason I can't take the talks. So we'll miss 2 sessions of Wednesday and 1 session of Saturday. So the coming Saturday will be the last session, and I'll complete the Mundak Upanishad this Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you and good night. And we'll meet again on the 15th. Those who are attending the Saturday will meet on Saturday. Thank you. Hari Om. Hari Om. Thank you. Namaste.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.